The film opens with a weather report predicting a bright, warm day in Seoul. Sung-jin, the lead male, is shown into his new apartment, which looks abandoned. The stale air, peeling wallpapers, and dust hanging on every visible corner are enough to discourage any buyer. Sung-jin loudly wonders how many years the place has been out of use. The realtor quickly excuses the lack of tenants, attributing it to the fact that it's on the 10th floor. It turns out Sung-jin asked for a cheap place, so ta-da! Sung-jin checks out the ridiculously low toilet and almost cries when he realizes his knees are stuck against the wall due to the tight space. The realtor, quick to offer solutions, suggests he sits sideways. Seriously, who sits sideways in a toilet? Realizing he's getting the short end of the stick, Sung-jin asks for a rent discount, but the realtor tells him it's up to the landlord, and then leaves. Sung-jin continues sitting in the toilet, obviously wondering what he's gotten himself into. It's a hassle getting his king-sized bed into the tiny space, and Ji-woo, Sung-jin's friend who helps carry it, complains bitterly. Ji-woo wonders why a bachelor needs such a big bed, but Sung-jin explains it's because it was cheap. Sung-jin seems to have a knack for finding cheap things. Ji-woo taunts him about being poor, and Sung-jin retorts by calling him ugly. Ji-woo tries to go to the toilet, but Sung-jin stops him, saying it's not suitable for someone of his size. Just then, Yoon-sung comes in with a pile of guitars, muttering about someone who doesn't play guitar having a collection. Frustrated and tired from the move, Yoon-sung asks why he didn't hire a moving company, but Sung-jin simply comments on his face and bad attitude. Jae-young enters, sweating profusely from carrying another item, and Sung-jin tells Yoon-seong to be more like Jae-young, who may have an ugly face but a beautiful soul. While eating, Yoon-sung asks if Sung-jin got into the Dream Again audition, to which Sung-jin affirms, attributing his move to that reason. Yoon-sung doubts Sung-jin will succeed as a solo artist, but Ji-woo and Jae-young rebuke him for this. Jae-young promises to supply Sung-jin with a steady supply of supplements and is taunted by Yoon-seong, who reminds him that the hospital he works at doesn't belong to him. Jae-young questions if their friend might be an alcoholic with anger issues, as he seems to yell at every given opportunity. Ji-woo suggests they focus on eating and admonish Yoon-seong for pressuring Sung-jin. They all clink their drinks together in peace. Later that night, the apartment looks cozier now that it's been properly set up, and Sung-jin snuggles into bed. He wakes up startled when he hears a wail. Sitting up, he tries to determine if it's a nightmare or something else. The eerie sound continues, leading Sung-jin to wonder if ghosts are real. Before he can sort out his thoughts, a piercing scream rings out, and that sends Sung-jin racing straight out of the apartment and building entirely. Ronnie, the next-door neighbor who is responsible for the wails, observes that her new neighbor has been successfully scared off. She goes to her desk and starts working on her computer. Scared to the bones, Sung-jin hides beside a truck, still thinking about ghosts. He returns to the apartment and begins pleading with the ghost, and promises to free it to the afterlife. As he prepares to smash the wall, he gets a hallucination of a ghost and faints. Ronnie overhears all these and is a bit dumbfounded. The next morning, Sung-jin continues his attempt of ghost freedom, prompting Ronnie to call him an idiot. Baffled that it wasn't a ghost tormenting him, he wonders about her intentions. She complains of the super thin wall they share. Despite living in different buildings, they can hear each other clearly, as the wall is poorly soundproofed, and the landlords can't seem to come to terms with fixing it, despite the numerous complaints, because they hate each other. Sung-jin wonders about the ghostly sound he heard the previous night, and she admits she was responsible, as she does it to scare people away. He gets worked up and asks if she's a psychopath, but she retorts that his willingness to live in such a tiny space and crampy bathroom makes him the real psychopath. He insists he can be as loud as he wants, but she counters that as she's the first tenant, he should leave. They go back and forth about this, and he suggests a compromise which she outrightly rejects. Over the next couple of days, they engage in a series of noise-making antics, trying to force the other to leave the apartment. Rock-young, Ronnie's elder sister, visits with some groceries, and tries to persuade her to return back home because of their mother, but Ronnie doesn't budge, and she eventually leaves. Just then, Sung-jin returns with supplements from Jae-young and settles down to drink them. With a mischievous grin, Ronnie gets to work on Project Noisemaking to ensure Sung-jin doesn't get a minute of peace. Later that night, she also struggles to sleep peacefully, as he retaliates with his guitar. A new day comes with a new strategy, and Ronnie has something up her sleeves. She sets her speaker and begins to play a very erotic sex sound. This has Sung-jin writhing in bed, as he struggles to contain his rising erection. He attempts to find her apartment but is unsuccessful because of the maze of buildings. After running around for a while, he suddenly remembers that they live in separate buildings and heads back home with a plan for revenge. Placing a metronome beside the wall, he lets it tick all through the day. This doesn't seem to faze her at first, but finally gets to her the next day when she's had enough of the annoying tick. Out of frustration, she yells for a compromise. Seung-jin relays this to Ji-woo over drinks, and Ji-woo wonders how they plan on taking 4 hours each to themselves every day. At the same time, Ronnie also updates Ra-kyung on the latest developments between herself and Seung-jin. Ji-woo and Ra-kyung both ask annoying questions about Ronnie and Seung-jin, and despite being in separate locations, they both come up with the same answer about each other, giving off the vibes of a psychopath. The compromise begins, which means one person is not allowed to make a sound during the 4 hours of the other's time, and vice versa. They will take turns at this until the day ends. Yoon-seong and Jae-young suggest they visit Seung-jin later that evening, much to the detriment of Ji-woo. He tries to dissuade them but to no avail. Luckily for Seung-jin, they arrive just as his time begins. He quickly apologizes to Ronnie over the wall, telling her the visit will happen just that one time and proceeds to let them in. Before Ji-woo gets in, Seung-jin pulls him aside, demanding to know why he let them come, when he's aware of his living conditions. Ji-woo promises to make them leave before the 4 hours expire. With the time almost up, Seung-jin and Ji-woo try to make them leave but they don't cooperate, as they are already heavily drunk. Yoon-seong drunkenly advises Seung-jin to put his best into the audition, and to find another career path if that fails. Seung-jin wakes up the next morning with a hangover and realizes he's alone. Ronnie sharpens a pocket knife like she has an ulterior motive, and updates him on the time his friends left. In the process of easing his bowels, Seung-jin suddenly remembers the missing details from the previous night. It appears that Ronnie, who had gotten fed up with their noise, screamed loudly, and this made Jae-young and Yoon-seong think there was a ghost, and began offering prayers to it. Seung-jin meets Ji-woo at the fruit store he works at, and tries to buy a grape for Ronnie, but Ji-woo informs him the grapes are imported, which means they are expensive. He advises Seung-jin to apologize to her because he'll have to practice for his audition, and Seung-jin blames him for his predicament before leaving. Back at the apartment, he apologizes to Ronnie about the previous night and tells her about his audition in 2 days' time. He proposes that they stick to the schedule for the moment, and after that, he'll give her 2 days to herself following his audition. Surprisingly, she agrees to this with a soft smile on her face. Later that night, Seung-jin drunkenly talks to Ronnie, with his 3 friends passed out drunk on the floor. He tells her that talking to a wall feels like a confession, then goes ahead to share his reason for not giving up on singing. The 4 friends were a band in the past, and Seung-jin unknowingly betrayed them. It turns out that he wanted to make it as a solo artist, so the band would be successful, but things didn't go smoothly for him. Assuming her for a ghost in his drunken state, he asks her to pray for him to succeed, because he owes it to his friends. The moment becomes a little bit emotional as she listens quietly. The next morning, Ronnie stumbles over an object on the floor and hurts her leg. Seung-jin, who is worried by the noise and her sharp cry of pain, asks if she needs to go to the hospital, but she assures him she's fine. He tells her to always come to him whenever she's in need. This surprises her, and she tries to know the reason behind it, but he doesn't give any tangible explanation. Things don't seem too chaotic between them anymore, as Ronnie taps her feet to the rhythm of Seung-jin's piano. Ji-woo and Yoon-seong try to persuade Seung-jin to join them for the after-party of the wedding they just attended, but Seung-jin doesn't seem interested, and prefers to go home instead. Yoon-seong thinks this is because of his ex-girlfriend Hee-ji, but he assures him it's not. He finally agrees after much persuasion. Back at home, Ronnie is at her working table, when Ra-kyung rushes into the house. Going straight to the wall, she sticks out her ear and knocks, but Ronnie quickly asks her to stop, as Seung-jin has left. Ra-kyung misunderstands this, and thinks Ronnie has successfully driven him away, but is relieved when she realizes he still lives in the house. Before leaving, she sees Ronnie's medicine, and asks why there is still much left. Ronnie nonchalantly responds that she has been feeling better. Ra-kyung is a bit doubtful of this, but Ronnie assures her of her health and sends her out. At the after-party, Seung-jin comes across Hye-ji, and she informs him of her upcoming wedding. He's a bit dumbfounded by this, but quickly recovers and congratulates her. As he gets home, Ronnie apologizes for taking his time and assures him she's wrapping up her design, but he just waves her off, saying she should take as much time as she needs, and this comes as a surprise to her. She wonders if he's heartbroken because of the song he's writing, and he affirms, although it's been a long time ago. His ex-girlfriend is getting married to a rich guy, and he feels bad for himself. Ronnie calls him a loser, and he doesn't dispute this, because even at 31, he doesn't have a suit or a career. She reminds him of his singing career and advises him to be proud of what he does. He is proud of it, but just confused because he's had zero progress. She softly tells him no one has zero progress, and to make sure he looks at things carefully with love to see the progress. This makes her cringe as she realizes she just made a cheesy comment and announces she's off to bed. Feeling motivated by her pep talk, Seung-jin begins rehearsing his song. She takes off her earmuff as she listens to his song with a smile on her face. At the audition, Seung-jin makes it to the next stage, and he feels happy about this. Meanwhile, Ronnie gets served some papers on a copyright infringement case. This triggers her panic attack as she sits by the wall, holding her chest in pain. Seung-jin arrives and is eager to share his good news with her. He realizes she's sitting by the wall and joins her from his own side. Out of excitement, he offers to buy her dinner, but she declines, saying the night isn't favorable for her. Instead, she chooses to drink with him through the wall. Although she drinks a glass of water instead of the beer she opens, she makes it seem like she's drinking an alcoholic beverage. The next morning, she takes her medicine and is about to head out when Seung-jin inquires about how she slept. She permits him to use her time as she's heading to fix something, and this makes him curious about what exactly she wants to do. In the mediating room, the session between her and Dong Won-chang commences. The mediator asks the defendant's side, which is Ronnie and her lawyer, to step outside first, in order to hear from the plaintiff. Wong Chang insists that the character she created should be owned in a 70-30 ratio, because she developed it while working at WC Designs, making it the company's property. Ronnie counters that the character she created was part of her personal collection, and not the company's. She only gave the company the design to use, but never signed a contract transferring the right of ownership. Therefore, it should be a 50-50 split. They settle on this and conclude the mediation. Back at home, she shares the details of her day with Seung-jin, who then watches a press release from WC Design that falsely portrays the situation as they compensated Ronnie. She gets livid, and Seung-jin gets even more worked up than her. She stifles a laugh as she listens to his plans for Wong-chan. Seung-jin recruits his friends to help teach Wong-chang a lesson. They all meet up at the gym Wong-chang goes to and pretend to give him some tips on the particular session he's doing. Unbeknownst to Wong-chang, his drink is spiked, and this makes him experience a terrible indigestion as he soils himself on the machine. Everyone in the gym sees this and begins recording him as he runs out in shame. Ra-kyung arrives at Ronnie's apartment with the trending news on her phone. Ronnie sees a comment and realizes it's the same thing Seung-jin said about Wong-chang the previous night. This puts a smile on her face. When Seung-jin returns, she rushes to the wall with excitement and asks him to have a drink with her. He agrees to this, but wonders why she's never outside enjoying the weather. She inquires about the Wong-chang situation, which he admits. With their backs against the wall, he wonders if she doesn't get bored with the secluded life she lives, but she softly admits that he makes her life less boring. Upon hearing this, he enthusiastically tells her he's more fun in person, but she doesn't reply as she gazes sadly at her medications. He requests to meet, but she declines, saying they can meet after his audition is over. He announces that she's become his girlfriend, making her blush furiously. Things improve between them from that point on. Initially, it seems like they're having sex, but it turns out they are dramatically pushing their beds to the wall to sleep next to each other. They go on pretend dates, eat together, and even watch movies together, although separated by the wall. They embark on a cooking date, and this becomes a flop for Ronnie, as what she prepares looks like a burnt offering. They arrange a dinner date and officially introduce Ra-kyung and Ji-woo to each other through the wall. Ra-kyung wonders if they wouldn't like to hold hands like normal people in a relationship, and Ji-woo wonders about sex. This leaves Ra-kyung baffled, and Seung-jin quickly apologizes, but not without hitting Ji-woo for talking too much. He assures Ronnie he likes their unique relationship as it's more fun that way. Of course, a relationship where they haven't seen each other, or even exchanged names, is unique indeed. After the dinner, Ra-kyung, in the typical elder sister fashion, tells Ronnie that she'll teach Seung-jin a lesson if he breaks her heart. The next morning, Ronnie gets an offer from Wong-chang on a collaboration where her design will be featured in their comic book, although she'll have to revise the character to fit with their comic. Seung-jin gets really excited about this and praises her for being a superstar designer. He gets interrupted by a knock and is surprised to see Hyeji at his door. She relays her fears about getting married and tries to enter his apartment, but he stops her, insisting they talk outside. Ronnie feels somewhat sad and jealous as she hears them leaving. While sitting outside, Hyeji admires the fact that Seung-jin hasn't changed since they broke up. Afterward, Seung-jin goes to see Ji-woo and offers to spend time with him, but Ji-woo insists that he goes to his rehearsals instead. Seung-jin promises to give the audition his all and leaves. Ronnie meets Wong-chang at a restaurant. He presents the contract, assuring her the profit will be shared equally between them. He reminds her about her time in the company and how they worked well together to achieve their common goal. However, this makes her recall the day he betrayed her by claiming the rights to the character she created. This triggers her panic attack, and she rushes outside to hail a cab. As she gets home, she takes her pills with shaky hands and tries to calm down. After a while, Seung-jin returns and inquires if anything happened while he was gone. Feeling sad, she sarcastically replies that she definitely didn't get a visit from an ex-lover. From then on, their relationship becomes complicated, and they begin to drift apart slowly. At the hospital, Rock-young questions Ronnie on her worsening condition, suggesting she should have come as soon as she started feeling down, but Ronnie responds that there's no need to overreact since she's not a child. During the audition, Seung-jin becomes uneasy, and this doesn't go unnoticed. He is then instructed to make a vlog documenting his daily life and send it to them. Feeling a little depressed, he calls Yoon Seong and arranges a sit-out in his law firm. Meanwhile, Rock-young takes care of Ronnie at home. While in the office, Yoon Seong comes across the legal contract from Wang Chang. He explains to Seung-jin that with the contract, Wang Chang can claim her copyrights because she will no longer be a co-owner, but merely an outsider working for him. This will eventually make the copyright of the revised character his. As Seung-jin reviews the document, he discovers her name. As he returns, Rock-young informs him through the wall about Ronnie's illness, which instantly makes him worried as he anxiously tries to know if she's okay. She sadly responds that Ronnie's symptoms are worsening. She confides in Seung-jin that Ronnie is very private and tends to keep her struggles to herself, shouldering burdens alone until she becomes ill. This changed after she met Seung-jin, as they are now always together. Rock-young asks him to take care of Ronnie, and he promises to do so. The next morning, Ronnie sees a get-well-soon note and a porridge from Rock-young, and this puts a smile on her face. Seung-jin encounters Wang Chang and gets into a fight with him, accusing him of taking advantage of people's dreams. Wang Chang gets the idea that he's from Ronnie and retaliates. Back at home, Ronnie gets a call from Wang Chang, accusing her of sending a man to fight him, and this makes her confused as she never did such. He calls off the contract and tells her it's her loss, seeing that it's her dream on the line, and not his. After giving a strict instruction not to call him again, except she wants to beg for mercy, he hangs up on her. Wang Chang's assistant seems concerned by this, reminding him that it's a big deal for the company, because if they don't see the contract through, they won't have further investments. Wang Chang is not bothered by this, because he knows that Ronnie will not give up on her dream. Back at home, Ronnie angrily scolds Seung-jin for getting into a fight with Wang Chang. She calls him naive and warns him never to cross the line with her again, emphasizing that the opportunity to fulfill a dream is very rare. Thinking Seung-jin is trying to sabotage her dream, she calls off their relationship. Seung-jin is visibly hurt by her words and tries to explain himself, but she cuts him off, saying she can't forgive him because a similar situation will happen again. She feels he doesn't understand her struggle, because he has never devoted his entire life to something. With pain in his voice, he tries to reason with her, warning that Wang Chang could steal the copyright if she signs the contract, but she dismisses this, saying she's not stupid just because she has panic attacks. Claiming to know more about the offer, she instructs him to mind his own business, and that she can take care of herself. Seung-jin becomes angry at her choice of words, and insists that she's blinded by her dream, reminding her that she once advised him to always look at things carefully. Still caring for her, he pleads with her to heed his warnings for the sake of the character she's invested so much into creating, but she ignores him and walks away from the wall. This leaves Seung-jin standing at his side of the wall, feeling heartbroken. Rock-young suggests Ronnie visit their mother, but Ronnie puts this off, saying she'll do that when she's less busy. After thanking her for the porridge she made when she was sick, she leaves. At home, Seung-jin attempts to vlog with little success. While in deep thought, he gets a call from the producer of Dream Again, but doesn't pick up. Ronnie arrives just then and calls for him, but he doesn't reply. She goes over her characters on a drawing pad and finally accepts Wang Chang's offer, but on the condition that he won't interfere with the design she makes. Seung-jin overhears this from his side of the wall and can't help but feel greatly disappointed. Sequel to their rift, Ronnie and Seung-jin begin taking turns just like the first time, and this hinders Seung-jin's vlog. Unable to bear the uncomfortable situation, he decides to stay at Jiwoo's place until his audition is over. Jiwoo, who has gotten enough of Seung-jin's moody behavior, tries to know what happened, but Seung-jin isn't forthcoming with any explanation. Jiwoo also complains about how badly he smells, noting that he's decided to neglect his appearance and even the audition. Just then, Seung-jin gets a call from Jung Min-kyu, the producer for Dream Again, demanding the camera back, as they no longer needed a vlog from him. Worried by the look on Seung-jin's face, Ji-woo inquires if he got disqualified, but Seung-jin assures him he didn't. Back at home, Ronnie overhears the door to Seung-jin's apartment and excitedly thinks he's back. She gets disappointed when she realizes it's Ji-woo doing a favor for Seung-jin, but before he leaves, she inquires about Seung-jin's well-being. While at the shop, Ji-woo, who is grinning from ear to ear, praises the lyrics of Seung-jin's song and asks if he checked the camera. He gets angry when he realizes Seung-jin sent back the camera without checking it. Seung-jin, who can't wrap his head around why Ji-woo is getting angry, wonders if there was something in the camera, but Ji-woo dismisses his anger as a result of his concern over Seung-jin's public image. Rakyoung pays a visit to Ronnie and compliments the finished character Ronnie has created. She asks if she can follow her to present it, but Ronnie, the ever-independent one, declines. The next day, Seung-jin is at the audition nervously waiting for his turn, but just before he's called, the producer gives him the camera, saying that there's a message he must have recorded mistakenly. Meanwhile, Ronnie has arrived at WC Designs with her character in a box. Wang Chang gets the shock of his life when he reveals the contents of the box. It turns out that Ronnie made a miniature version of a man lifting weights. Furious about the obvious ridicule, he vows that she'll regret her actions. Ronnie boldly tears up the contract and informs him that she will excel on her own, before leaving the office with her head held high. Seung-jin is called up, and his friends cheer him on in support. The video on the camera turns out to be an apology from Ronnie, which Ji-woo recorded when he went to retrieve the camera for Seung-jin. Ronnie expresses her regret over how she handled things and admits she was blindsided by her dream. She acknowledges that Seung-jin has changed her life, giving her the freedom to understand what it means to have a deep connection with someone. She emphasizes that even if his dreams aren't fulfilled, the fact that his heart is put into it is enough. She promises to be at the audition in person so they can resolve everything. After delivering his performance, the judges express their dissatisfaction with his voice, but acknowledge being moved by his song. While standing on stage, Seung-jin recalls Ronnie's message about it being enough to know he put his heart into something, even if his dreams don't get fulfilled, which encourages him to move forward with his life. Before the judges can announce their decision, he unexpectedly races off the stage and out of the building, leaving everyone surprised. Love is indeed magical, because despite never having met in person, Seung-jin and Ronnie instantly recognize each other as they run towards themselves at the intersection of a zebra crossing, gazing lovingly into each other's eyes.